What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with an exciting video. Retribution Paladins are getting buffed next week in the PvP balance changes. I want to briefly go over what they are and give you my thoughts. So first off, I've been playing a bunch of 2s and 3s. RET damage has felt horrendously low, especially compared to last patch. Not particularly due to any nerfs in general, but in my opinion, it's mostly from the Aura of Reckoning loss and the Luminescence redesign. We just happen to lose a lot of damage from those two talents in PvP. I'm not entirely sold that these are enough changes to bring us to the same damage level as last patch, but I'm definitely going in with an open mind and just grateful to Blizzard that they are actually balancing in back-to-back weeks for PvP. Now, to give you some thoughts about the changes in general. So Blade of Justice is getting a 25% damage buff along with its dot expurgation, which is getting a 40% damage buff. Judgment is getting a 20% damage buff, and finally, Final Verdict is getting a 10% damage buff. Now, I want to reiterate this again. I'm very happy we're getting changes in general, but I would much rather have seen that all the damage that they're giving us be baked in the Final Verdict rather than Judgment and Expurgation and Blade of Justice. The main reason being, I remember playing back in Mists of Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor when all of our generators kind of felt like they did the same thing. I feel like currently in the War Within, we are kind of trending that way, and in Dragonflight as well. By pushing Judgment and Blade of Justice damage value closer to closer to Hammer Wrath, we run the risk of having all three feel like they're the exact same spell with very minor differences. Like, you know, Judgment obviously applies Greater Judgment, and Blade of Justice applies our Holy Fire, which is just another damage modifier, and then, you know, we have Hammer of Wrath. They're all three range abilities. But it's fine. I mean, I'm glad we're getting the damage buffs. I hope the 20% also applies to Divine Toll. In theory, it should buff Divine Toll as well. That's great. But I mean, if I was to have my wish list changes, it would have just been like add 20-30% to Final Verdict and cut the rest of the changes. But we're definitely going to go in with an open mind. Play test on Tuesday, and I mean, I'm sure things are going to feel better than they feel right now. There are a couple of builds that we could maybe look into playing next week as well if the Judgment buff goes through. Like, for example, maybe we could play Quickened Invocation and For Whom the Bells Toll with Templar for some really big judgments. But the downside of that is that if you cleave your Divine Toll, then, you know, your single target judgments aren't really going to do that much increased damage. They'll do like 20% increased damage. But then we can maybe increase it by 40% overall. And this is in the 3s game. In the 2s game, you can actually get pretty high value out of For Whom the Bells Toll. But again, everything remains to be seen for next week. I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, I am happy that we got changes in general. One side note on this, and I want everyone to think back to before 10.0.7 RET Paladin. When RET was pretty bad outside of Radiant Decree, they did very similar changes where they buffed like Crusader Strike and Blade of Justice and a couple of our other generators, I believe. And RET actually was not any better after those changes. I remember that, and there were more significant buffs than what we're seeing right now. So I just did some quick maths, and on average on the PvP target dummy with no procs, Blade of Justice does about 330k damage, and its Expurgation damage over time effect does about 204k damage, and that is with Burning Crusade talented. Through the two buffs to those abilities, we'll net through both of them 164,100 damage on average. But that's keeping in mind that we're not hitting a dummy with versatility, I believe. I'm pretty sure the PvP dummies don't have versatility. Not entirely sure, but I'm fairly sure. Blade of Justice is also not a very frequently pushed ability in the rotation. It's probably the lowest on our priority, you know, because Hammer Wrath does significantly more damage at the moment, at least. And Judgment applies our Greater Judgment for our Final Verdict. So even though it is a pretty significant buff to one ability, it's also the lowest ability in our rotation, and generally one of our lowest breakdown numbers as well, something like under 2% for both abilities, actually, both the dot and the ability itself. The Judgment increase actually is going to be pretty nice, I think. Judgment, very frequently pushed ability, and hopefully it works on Divine Toll. And of course, we are spamming Final Verdict to our heart's content right now with both Herald and Templar. So I am looking forward to next week, trying out the changes and seeing if we feel a little bit better. Right now, I've been playing a lot of 2s and 3s. Ret has not felt good. It has not felt good. It's been an uphill battle every game, and in that uphill battle, if we ever do get wins, it's been purely off of landing repentances or searing glares during crucial moments. So right now, you're basically a CC bot as a Ret Paladin in 3s, which is an interesting playstyle. I am having fun casting Repentance a lot, but of course, I want to do damage. I want to net kills, and hopefully this is enough. And if it's not, then we'll give some feedback then. All right, let me know in the comments what you guys think about the incoming Ret Paladin changes and maybe some of the other changes, because there were plenty to some of the overperforming and underperforming specs. And yeah, looking forward to it. All right, I'll see you all next time. Peace.